بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. The topic today will be inshallah التوحيد. Okay. التوحيد meaning from the verb وحد, to unify, to make something one. Okay, this is the meaning of Tawheed. Okay, let me just move this a little bit inshallah so you can see the board. Can you see the board okay? Yeah? Alhamdulillah. So, At-Tawheed is one of the most talked about things nowadays because it's the most controversial thing for the kuffar. It is the Tawheed which makes the kuffar afraid of Islam. It is the Tawheed which makes the kuffar angry with Islam. It is Tawheed that makes the kuffar in opposition to Islam. Tawheed is one of the hardest things for the mushrikeen to accept because it shakes everything that they know and they believe. Ibn Abbas said that التوحيد أشد على الناس من الموت. He said that the Tawheed is harder on the people even than death. Some people would rather die than accept Tawheed even though they know it's the truth. Because the Tawheed will take away everything that they have grown up with from the shirk and the things that they've loved and attached themselves to. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said about the mushrikeen, the reason why they couldn't accept the Tawheed was because of all the effort and money and things that the sacrifices that they've made for their idols, dreaming about what will happen in the hereafter, thinking they'll go to Jannah for that because of what they sacrificed for their idols. So all of that sacrifice and all of that effort and spending that they've put into and investment they put into their idols, it makes them have this love and attachment to the idols that they can't give it up. Even if they know that the idols are not real. Even if they know that it's the truth. When somebody says to you that Wahidullah makes exclusivity to Allah, only worship Allah, La ilaha illallah, when somebody tells you these things, they know it's the truth. But they cannot give up all those things that they have invested in and spent, and they cannot accept that they've wasted it. They cannot accept that everything they've done up until now was a waste. And that love and attachment to their own idols, whether it was a stone or a rock or a cross or a tree or democracy or freedom or secularism, whatever it was, they cannot give it up. And they, sometimes they feel proud about it and angry. That's what Allah says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. When it said to them, look, there's none worthy of worship except for Allah, they become arrogant. They feel, how can I have been wrong all this time? How can it not be correct? How can secularism, freedom not be correct? I was with a French journalist yesterday and I was surprised, I was shocked at the blind patriotism of some journalists and this blind faith in the concept of freedom of speech, even when he sees this contradiction. I asked him, look, you either believe in freedom of speech or restriction of speech. Which one do you believe? He said, no, I absolutely believe in freedom of speech, but you have to have some restriction. You don't understand, you just contradict yourself. These two cannot go together. You either believe in laws or you believe in freedom. So just say, look, you're liberal, but you believe in restricting speech like everybody else, but you believe in, having a wide latitude and liberalism, being very liberal in most things. But some things, of course, you have to stop. So you can't, use this emotive language and slogans like freedom of speech. When you see that it's a fallacy, like the Christians, when you say to them that Allah is only one, so how can He be three? They can see that is a problem, but they can't accept it. Okay, so you see, this is what Mu'adh ibn Jabal as well, he said about the Christians of Najran. He said that the Tawheed was harder on those Christians. They were so stubborn. It was harder on them than for a mountain to fall on their head. They'd rather stick to their own shirk than to accept Tawheed. Okay. But the Tawheed, what is it? It's something which is very simple. and it is the most obvious thing for any sincere person that thinks about their purpose in life, about God, about where we came from and where this world came from. So linguistically, okay, at-Tawheed from wahada. Okay, it means to unify. Okay, means to unify or to make something one. Okay, even when we talk about the ummah, uniting the ummah, okay, we can say that, you can use the word Tawheed to say Tawheed al-Ummah. We want to have the unity of the Ummah, to unite everybody on basically on just one thing. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Unite together on the rope of Allah. So to unify and bring together, make it only one, not to be separate, not make it two. This is included. And wahda as well means to make one, to make something just to be one. Mean that you completely reject the possibility of a second. You're saying, if we say Tawheed for Allah, we're saying Allah is the only one. There cannot be a second. There cannot be a third or a fourth. Can be no partners. Okay, as well it means ifrad. Okay, which means, exclusivity. Okay. Mean it's something which is exclusive. You give that exclusively to its owner. Okay. For example, if we say that, this is my laptop. There's a difference between saying this is my laptop and saying this is our laptop. We share it together. One has a partnership where people are partners in a business, for example. They all have a share in that business. And somebody could be the sole owner of a business. It's exclusively his, only to him. Okay, so that is his. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well, there are certain things which are completely exclusive to Allah, like His names and attributes. Nobody else shares that name or attribute. Nobody else can have that right, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so this ifrad is very important. Okay, we say Allah, He is, al-fard al-samad. He is the one which is exclusive. He is al-ahad. Al-fard is not His name, but His attribute. Okay, we have ifrad. We offer and we give exclusivity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like sometimes the journalists say to you, look, they want it to be exclusive. They don't want you to speak to any other journalist, only for them alone. This is the same thing when we talk about the Tawheed, ifrad, exclusivity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We offer something which is for Allah alone. We don't offer it to anybody else. We don't allow anybody to have any share of it besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We only have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exclusively. Okay, so we're talking about here to unite, to unify, or we can say to consolidate as well. We can use the word consolidate. Okay, to put together, make in one body, combine in one body. These are the linguistic meanings of at-Tawheed. Okay. Okay. So now when we talk about the Sharia definition of Tawheed, I need to find a better way to do this. Okay. Okay. So in the Sharia, okay, we can have more than one definition we can use, but the most jami' mani' definition is, we say ifrad Allah or ifradullah tabarak wa ta'ala fi jami'i huquqih. meaning exclusivity to Allah okay, exclusivity to Almighty Allah in all of His rights. Okay, so exclusivity to Almighty Allah in all of His rights. Okay, you can find other definitions as well. Okay, but this encompasses all of them. Okay, this is a good definition, encompasses all of them. Okay, especially if you understand what His rights are, and I'll elaborate on that inshallah in a moment. Okay, some of the other definitions, people they will say ifradullah fil ibad, ifradullah fil ibadah, do exclusivity to Allah in worship exclusively. Okay, but this is not jami', it's not comprehensive enough, because there are other aspects of Tawheed which are not included in this. Okay, you could also say that the Tawheed is to comprehend, believe and submit exclusively to Almighty Allah in His supremacy, His names and attributes, and in all sayings, actions and convictions. This is another jami' mani' definition of the Tawheed. Okay, so to comprehend, believe and submit exclusively to Almighty Allah, His supremacy, His names and attributes, and all sayings, actions and convictions. Okay. Okay. And that is a good definition as well. I'm thinking about whether to put it up or not. We'll leave it for the time being. But does anybody need me to repeat that? Have you written it down? Oh, in this one, yeah? Okay. The second one, second definition. No? Yeah. So this is one definition. Exclusivity to Allah in all of His rights. Okay. Another definition is to comprehend, and I'll put it on the board. I'll put this one on the board. Okay. The second definition you can put, okay, a little bit longer, we can say is to comprehend believe and submit to Almighty Allah His supremacy, names, attributes, names and attributes in all sayings, actions and convictions. Okay, so this is the second definition you can use for Tawheed, and elaborates on a couple of other points as well in this one. Okay, talking about to comprehend, believe and submit to Allah Ta'ala, because this is very important for us to understand. You know, in order for us to establish the Tawheed, that we need to fulfill, certain aspects of our submission to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We need to have idrak, iqrar wa ifrad. Okay, to really establish the Tawheed, we need to have al-idrak. Allah Subhanahu says, فَعَلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهِ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Idrak means to comprehend, to know. So you need to know that Allah Ta'ala is exclusive. You must, when you worship Allah, you worship Him knowing that you are worshipping Allah, not by accident. So you need to know and comprehend that there is none worthy of worship beside Allah. And you need to believe and submit to that. Allah Ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَكِتَابِهِ. He said, oh, you who believe in Allah and His Messenger and His book. So we need to believe. Somebody could know it, but they reject and they disbelieve. Okay, like some of the mushrikeen, they knew Allah. Some people, they knew Allah Ta'ala was the only one worthy to be worshipped, but they refused to give up their idols, like Abu Talib. Okay, so if you don't submit to it and accept it and declare it and act upon it, okay, and worship Allah exclusively, then you won't really have established the Tawheed. So it's not enough just somebody just to know, say that he knows Allah is the only one worthy of worship, but despite that, he votes for an MP, or he worships the grave, or he worships an idol, despite knowing Allah is the only one worthy to be worshipped. If he does that, he is not muwahhid, he doesn't have Tawheed, he's mushrik. Okay, so he needs to have the comprehension, idrak. Let me put these words up, inshallah. I will rub out from the other side actually, I will elaborate on this for you now. Okay, so to establish the Tawheed, we need al-idrak. Okay. Okay, we need al-idrak, to comprehend. Okay, or to know. Because Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Muhammad verse 19 that know فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, know that there is none worthy of worship beside Allah. Okay, in Surah Muhammad verse 19. So you need to know what you're talking about. To really actually have Tawheed, you must comprehend the Tawheed. You must know and understand it. Okay, and one of the best explanations for why you must have that knowledge and understanding that I found was, Shaykh Umar explained it one way, you know, when you talk about the Shahada. When you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, what does that mean? What does that testimony of faith really mean? Ashhadu means I testify, I bear witness. That what? La ilaha illallah. La means no, there is none. There is no ilah. Illa, except Allah. Okay, so we're left with two words, ilah and Allah. What is an ilah and who is Allah? If somebody does not know who Allah is, nor does he know what an ilah is, what does it mean to be worshipped? What is worship? He doesn't know. How does he know he's worshipping Allah and not shaitan? If he doesn't know who Allah is, he can worship anybody and think it's Allah. Like the Christians, they worship Isa and they think he's Allah. They think he is God. Okay? The Buddhists, they worship Buddha and they think he is God. However much they think, no, they don't believe in a God. No, they believe in it. They worship, they follow, they obey. Maybe they don't know what worship is. Some people, they still know we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we just go for judgment to the Tawheed. That means he never understood what an ilah is, what worship is. If you say there is no ilah except for Allah, that means you believe that there's nobody can give judgment or legislate laws except for Allah. لا مشرع إلا الله لا مطاع إلا الله لا متبوع إلا الله لا معبود إلا الله. That's what we're saying. When we say La ilaha illallah, we're saying there is no legislator except for Allah. There is none worthy of worship beside Allah, or being followed instead of Allah, or being obeyed instead of Allah. If you don't comprehend and understand what you're saying when you say, we give Allah all of His rights, that Allah Ta'ala is exclusive. If we don't know it and understand it, we'll never achieve it. So, what was the thing? This shahada, when we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, okay, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, if you don't know what you're testifying to, what kind of testimony is that? How can you testify to something and you don't know it? If we went to court, any court, Islamic Sharia court or even a man-made court, any court at all, just simple common sense, and I say, I'm a witness, I will testify. Let me testify as a witness. I testify that Abu Saifullah, he did so-and-so action. So you testify, yes. And who is Abu Saifullah? I don't know. And what did he do exactly? I don't know, but he did it. I know he did it. I don't know what he did, but he did it. And it was him, he's guilty. Okay? Let's say he said, oh, he stole a car. Yeah, he stole a car. I testify, I bear witness. And so what does the car look like? I said, I don't know. How do you know he stole it? I don't know, but he stole it. Do you even know what a car is? I don't know what a car is, but he stole one. What kind of witness? Nobody would accept his testimony. He's testifying to something he has no knowledge about whatsoever. You can only testify to something if you know it. If you know what you're talking about. So if you don't have this al-idrak, if you don't have comprehension and knowledge, you don't know what it means to worship, and you don't know who Allah is, then how can you testify that there's none worthy to be worshipped except for Allah? You can't. So you must know. When we say exclusivity to Allah in all of His rights, you need to know what His rights are. You need to know what they are. Otherwise you'll end up giving His rights to somebody else. And that's what happens nowadays. People say, we worship Allah, akhi, but I make dua to Abdul Qadir Jilani. You didn't understand, this is the right of Allah. You don't make dua to anybody except for Him. He said, I worship Allah, but we are going to the parliaments and we're going to stand as an MP in the elections. That's because you never understood the right of Allah. You cannot be muwahhid unless you have this knowledge, basic knowledge of what's the asl deen, the foundation of the deen. You enter Islam by testifying that there's none worthy of worship beside Allah. If you never knew what that meant, your shahada was meaningless. It meant nothing. Okay? We wouldn't even call him an apostate. Why? Because he never really understood in the first place. He never really became Muslim. We say, okay, look, he never not become Muslim, but now we teach him, now he's become Muslim. Okay? So, al-idrak is the first thing. You must have this comprehension. Okay? You must have the understanding and knowledge. And you need to have as well al-iqrar. Okay. Okay. We need to have submission. Okay. Okay. I'll put his submission and belief. Okay. Not only belief, but acceptance as well. Okay. And here you can put here 4136 as one evidence. Allah ordered us, O you who believe in Allah and His Messenger and His books. So not only do you understand and know what the kalima and the Tawheed means, you know who Allah is and that He's the only one worthy to be worshipped, you know it. But if then you don't submit to it and you continue worshipping other than Allah, whether out of habit or for personal gain or out of fear of the people or out of showing off and riyah, whatever reason you give, if you don't submit and actually say, because Allah is the only one worthy to be worshipped, therefore I will never worship anybody except Him. If you don't do that, then you haven't got the Tawheed. You're not muwahhid. You haven't got the Tawheed. You haven't achieved it yet. Okay? You need to submit. You need to, accept it, testify to it, believe in it. You need to submit to it. If you believe Allah is the only one should be obeyed, that means you will never accept any man-made laws. You will never say, but I will obey the man-made laws as well. He will never say that, because he's not muwahhid unless he knows and believes in it and submits to it as well. So he needs to have this al-iqrar. And finally, you need to have as well, to establish it, al-ifrad. Okay. Okay. You need to have al-ifrad, exclusivity. Okay, to Allah. Okay, because somebody could, for example, he knows Allah deserves to be worshipped exclusively, and he does, submit and believe in that, and he does worship Allah. He prays the salah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he doesn't do it exclusively. He prays to Allah and to an idol. Okay, he wears the cloak of Tawheed and Iman, but he's hiding and he's also sharing with that the shirk and the kufr. Okay? He says Allah is the only legislator, but then he also votes and goes to United Nations, and he seeks judgments from the Tawheed. Okay? Here we can give one reference, simple one, Qul Huwallahu Ahad. But also, just because of that example I mentioned, 460 is a good one. Okay, Surah 4 verse 60, Allah Ta'ala says, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ يَزْعُمُونَ أَنَّهُمْ آمَنُوا بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. Have you seen those who claim to believe? Okay, they claim to believe in what was revealed to you and what was revealed before you. So they know it, and they say to you, yeah, we believe in it. We believe, we accept it. يريدون يتحاكموا إلى الطاغوت. And yet they seek arbitration to the taghut, to other than Allah. They seek judgments from other than Allah. وَقَدْ أُمِرُوا أَن يَكْفُرُوا بِهِ. When they were ordered to reject it, to have disbelief in it. So it could be somebody, they claim to be a Muslim, they say the Shahada and everything else, and yet they start to share with Allah His rights with somebody else. Okay, like by going for judgment to other than Allah. Okay. Okay. In the definition, if we go back to it for a moment, so we understand now what we're saying: to comprehend, believe and submit to Almighty Allah. In fact, that should be to Almighty Allah exclusively. Almighty Allah exclusively. Okay, in His supremacy, His names and attributes, in all His sayings, actions and conviction. Okay, so this covers the next thing, which is the categories of Tawheed, which I will elaborate on in a moment, inshallah. When we talk about His supremacy, His names and attributes, these are His rights. His rights, the rights of Allah to His rububiyyah, uluhiyyah and asma' wa sifat. To His being the Lord, to be His being the only one worthy to be worshipped, in all of our worship and ibadah to Allah, and in His names and attributes. Okay, is exclusively for Him. And we say in all sayings and actions and conviction. I'll just elaborate on this quickly before I go on to the categories of Tawheed. Okay, can I rub this part out on the left? Yep. If I ask somebody, where's your Iman? What would you say? In your heart. It's true, alhamdulillah. It's true, but not just in your heart. Okay, this is the question. Okay, the Murji'ah, they will say, Iman is in my heart. Okay, you say, yes, akhi, but you need to worship Allah. I say, no, akhi, I don't need to pray. My salah is in my heart. My fasting is in my heart. My tawheed, I rule by the sharia in my heart. But with my limbs, I rule by democracy and man-made law. That's all. In my heart, though, I rule by the sharia. Okay, this man is murji' and mushrik, because it's not good enough. Okay, of course Iman is in the heart. Nobody said it's in your pocket, but in your heart, your tongue and in your limbs as well. Somebody at the door. Somebody at the door, inshallah. So the tools of Tawheed. How do we achieve the, what tools do we use to establish the Tawheed? Okay, our sayings by the tongue, actions by limbs, and conviction or belief in the heart. Okay, these three come together. The Iman and the Tawheed, they are on all three of these. We say Al-Imanu ma waqara fil qalb wa aqraru bil lisan wa amalu al-jawarih bil arkan. We say the Iman is the belief in the heart, what is settled in the heart, what is testified to or submitted to by the tongue, and the actions of the limbs upon the pillars of Islam. Okay, that is the Tawheed, that is Iman. You need to have all three. Okay, you cannot separate these three. And the way I used to explain this one, okay, is anybody who went to school in this country, they may have come across this, what's called a fire triangle. Have you seen that before? Yeah? Just to bring it back to something you recognize each other. Have you seen this fire triangle before? They say, well, if you want fire, the flame, you need to have air or oxygen, you need to have fuel, and you need to have heat. Okay? They say you need all three for fire to exist. Okay? If you take away the air, the fire will be extinguished. If you take away the fuel, or the fuel run out of firewood or whatever is burning, It runs out, the fire will disappear, it will be extinguished. Or if there's no longer heat, you make it cold, okay, then the fire will be extinguished. You need all three for the fire to exist. That's why you have fire extinguishers. Either they cut off the air, or they cut off the heat, okay, or they cut off the fuel. Okay, so they will find one way or another just to stop the fire. The Iman and the Tawheed is like this, okay, except, let's get rid of, if we get rid of the word fire, and instead we put in here Iman. Okay, get rid of the word air. Let's just change the colors a little bit. We'll say, and instead of the word air, we say the heart. Okay, all the functions of the heart. Take off the word fuel and heat, and we'll say sayings and actions. These are the pillars of the Iman. Okay, these are how we establish Iman. You need all three for the Iman to exist. Otherwise, your flame of your Iman in your heart, it will be extinguished. It will be nullified. If you have kufr inside your heart, doesn't matter how many million times you say the shahada and how many salah and ruku and sujood you make. If you have kufr in your heart, you're kafir. Your Iman is extinguished. It disappears. Okay? And it doesn't matter how much Iman you have in your heart. If you refuse to say the kalima, and you say like Abu Talib, what? Ala millati Abdul Muttalib. I'm on the millah, I'm on the religion of Abdul Muttalib. And you die upon that, your Iman does not exist. It doesn't matter what you believe in your heart. You could believe all you like in your heart. Allah said about the Jews, يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. They recognized the messenger the way they recognized their own children. But they refused to accept him as the prophet, and they rejected him. They claimed he was a liar. They claimed that he was not the messenger. So it doesn't matter what you have in your heart. If you start to say the word of kufr with your tongue, you become kafir. Because your Iman is in your heart, your sayings and your actions. Okay, and the same thing. It doesn't matter how many times you pray the salah, how much you believe in your heart, but you say the word of kufr with your tongue, you become kafir. Okay, unless you had a valid excuse, which is different matter. And similarly with the actions as well. This is where we differ with the Murji'ah. All Murji'ah, what they do is they take away actions from the Iman. They say you don't need actions. The fire can exist without it. Okay, they say you can have fire without fuel. Who needs fuel? Okay, they say you can have Iman without actions. Whereas Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we say no. In order to have Iman, you must have Iman in your heart, Iman on your sayings, and Iman on your actions as well. Doesn't matter how much you believe in your hearts and you say the kalima and the shahada. If you do kufr actions with your limbs, you become kafir. Like what? Like somebody, he deserts the salah. He deserted the salah, turned his back on the zakat. He becomes kafir. He started to mock the Quran with his hand. Okay, let's say he threw the Quran. Okay, or he stepped on it. He becomes kafir. Okay, he becomes kafir. Even if he says the shahada, even if with his tongue he's saying, I believe in the Quran, I believe in the Quran, but then with his hand he is desecrating the Quran, he becomes kafir. Okay, he might say, I'm with the Muslims, I'm a believer, but he works with the police against the Muslims, against Islam, making tawalli, وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Allah said, whoever among you allies with them, he is one of them. He is one of them. So with actions, he starts to commit the kufr. If he does kufr or shirk in his actions, all the tawheed in the world in his heart and sayings will not save him from the shirk that he's done in his actions. He'll become kafir. Okay, he'll become mushrik or kafir. So you need to have all three of these. That's why we say in the definition to make it even more jami' mani, you could say, we say he needs to have that tawheed in all of his sayings, actions and convictions. If he does shirk in some of them, he's no longer tawheed. Okay? He's no longer tawheed. Okay? So he needs to have the tawheed in all his sayings, actions and his conviction in his heart. Okay, everybody got this? Okay. I'm going to run out the definitions as well now, inshallah. I want to talk about this thing, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are they? The categories of Tawheed. when we talk about the types of Tawheed or categories of Tawheed, I think it's good for us to use these terms instead. It's more accurate and less confusion. Okay, so we have the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, I'm going to put in brackets here categories of Tawheed. Okay, the reason I'm going to do that is because we need to ask the question, how many categories of Tawheed are there? And can we say that there is 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 2? Can we really say that? Okay. But I'm going to use the words the rights of Allah because that's more obvious and clear to us when we talk about it, inshallah. So, how many categories are there of Tawheed? I'm talking about here, Rububiyyah, so on and so forth. Anybody want to?
I say 4.
You say 4? Okay. Anybody want to?
3.
3. Okay. 3 and 4. Anybody want to make any other suggestions? Okay. It's not an auction, but it's still. Yeah, we could really do as many as we want, but this is a big controversy now. People, they get really excited about he said 4 categories of Tawheed. Some people call him Mubtadi', innovator, just for saying there's 4 categories of Tawheed. Okay, and if we wanted to, we could say he's the innovator. How can he say there's 3? Okay, I'm going to put 2. Okay, just to be difficult. Yeah. Though really, you're both right, inshallah. And anybody who said there's 8, they're right as well. And you'll see why, inshallah. When we talk about categories of Tawheed, we're really talking about the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? We said that Tawheed is to have exclusivity to Allah in all of His rights. So His rights, they can be summarized in these 2. But they're both His rights. We can't separate the 2 and say, look, you have Tawheed, as long as you have Tawheed and Rububiyyah, you're okay. Doesn't matter about this other one. No, because if you take away the rights of Allah, of Ilahiyya, you're still mushrik. It doesn't save you. You can't really separate the Tawheed. Tawheed can only be with both of these together. You must have both. If you don't have both, it's not Tawheed. So really there's no division of Tawheed at all. It's only one Tawheed. But just to help us understand, this is what we have in the principle of Sharia, that the classification of the terminology is permissible in any way, as long as you don't distort the meaning, as long as you don't confuse the people with the meaning. The whole point of it is to make it easier for you to understand, not to make it harder. So really, if I wanted to make 100 categories of Tawheed, we could make 100 categories. But you're going to be more confused than when you started. So we simplify it for the people in an easy way. Okay? Just like we have the ahkam taklifiyya, the rules. How many different types of rule are there? We've got the fard, the mandoob, we've got the mubah, permissible. You have the makruh, disliked, and the haram, which is prohibited. Okay? But then somebody could say, but what about wajib for the Hanafis? What about makruh tahrimi? What about sunnah mu'akkada and ghayr mu'akkada and all the different types? Now hang on, what about wajib mutlaq, wajib muqayyad? If you want to confuse somebody, you can bring many different types of classifications. Okay? All of these terminology and classification are permissible, as long as it is to elaborate and explain the matters to the people in a way they understand. And people can differ about the terms they use. You can use different terms if you like. Doesn't make a difference, as long as you're explaining the same things and you're not making it the meaning wrong. So the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be summarized as 2: Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Ilahiyyah. And if you want to really just summarize very in simple terms what these refer to, okay, Rububiyyah from the word Rabb, Lord. Okay, so it's His lordliness, you could say. Okay, if that's a word. If not, we can add it to the dictionary of the English language, inshallah. Ilahiyyah is from the word ilah, from the word to be worshipped, His right to be worshipped. Okay. Okay. In practical terms, to really understand, the difference between these 2 is This is all about attributing all actions or functions of Allah to Him exclusively. Okay? Attributing all the actions and functions of Allah to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala exclusively. Meaning what? Whatever Allah did, you say this is His. We don't say anybody else did it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. We don't dare say Mother Nature created us, chance created us, no, evolution created us. No, we don't bring all this nonsense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. It belongs to Him. The creation belongs to Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He guides and takes away guidance. Nobody else guides and misguides. Even when people say, look, I made somebody Muslim. How can you make somebody Muslim? Will you force him or what? Yeah? I gave him da'wah. You didn't guide him. Allah guided him. You did your duty, you give da'wah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sparked in his heart the guidance. How many people will call them to Islam with the same da'wah, the same call, the same message, but they don't believe? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides or takes away the guidance or misguides. Nobody else. Allah says, Yahdi man yasha. Okay, Allah ta'ala guides whoever He wishes. And He says, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. He said, you cannot guide whoever you like, whoever you wish. It's not up to you. Okay, it's not about you love Him, so you want to guide Him, so you guide Him. No. Allah guides whoever He wishes. And He sends astray whoever He wishes. Nobody can do that except for Allah. So all those things are His creation. The guidance, the rizq, He provides for us. He's the only provider. Okay, He's the one who gives life and takes life. It belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exclusively. Okay, so all of the things that Allah does, His actions, we say this belongs to Allah. We don't give that credit to anybody else. We don't give the credit to anybody else. Okay, even sometimes people make the mistake. Simple terminology. Simple terminology can have some element of shirk. We say shirk al-alfaz, the shirk of the words and terminology. You can have some mistakes in our words, and technically they could contain a very bad meaning, evil meaning. For example, if somebody says, "Akhi, you're a lifesaver." What do you mean you're a lifesaver? How can you save life? You give life or take life or what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who saves you, the one who gives life, not you. Okay, you cannot increase my lifespan. Prevent death from reaching me. It's impossible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does that. Somebody says to you, you're very lucky, good luck. What do you mean lucky? You believe in qadr or not? You believe that Allah, He does whatever He wishes and determines the fate, the destiny for everybody, or you don't? So technically, these words have some bad meaning in it. It has some meaning which has some shirk in it as well. Okay. Similarly, when people start to say, we are democratic people, that's full of shirk. Because you know what democratic means? It means the people legislate when Allah is the one who legislates. Allah is the one who decrees and decides laws, not the people. So it has bad meaning in it. So this is the rububiyyah. When we talk about Allah's actions, anything that Allah says He did or He does, we attribute it to Him, and that is His right, His haqq. Ilahiyya is directing all of our actions. Okay, this one, okay, we can say the functions of Allah. Okay, this time directing all of our actions to Allah exclusively. So this time we're talking about whatever we do. Okay, we are human beings or creation, any other creation. When we do an action, we do it only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We obey, for example, to obey, to follow, okay, to worship, okay, to supplicate, okay, to love, okay, to seek judgment. Okay, all of these things, we direct them only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we say when we obey only Allah. When we worship only Allah. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only you we worship, only you we seek help from. Isti'ana, to seek help. We don't seek help from other than Allah. We seek help from Him exclusively. Istighatha, appealing. And we say ittiba', following. We only follow Allah. We don't follow anybody else. We love Allah exclusively. We don't love anybody else. We will never love the enemy of Allah. How can it be? Mr. Kafir says, oh, I hate Allah. And then you say to him, oh, but I love you. What's the matter? What kind of muwahhid is that? What kind of Muslim? The Kafir hates Allah and you love the Kafir. But Islam is love though. Islam is compassion. Who told you we just make up the deen as we go along? We're not Christians. Love everybody. And the Christians hate, believe me, they hate us. How much they tell you we love everybody? You know? Some of them, sometimes you catch them out. They say to you, no, we love everybody. We don't hate anybody. We love everybody. So, okay, do you love Osama bin Laden? He said, no, I hate him. Yeah? So what happened to all Mr. Love? No? What happened to all that love? All of a sudden, it becomes okay. Bunch of hypocrites, all of them. Anyway, so this is the difference between rububiyyah and ilahiyyah. Okay, rububiyyah is Allah's actions; they belong to Him exclusively, and we don't claim anybody else has those actions. We don't give anybody else credit for the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, that's why it's kufr. What this man Usama Hassan, he said, when he started to talk about evolution, denying what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He made Adam from clay with his own two hands. Okay, and from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, how he was made clay and it was not even given life for a long time. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the life, the ruh into Adam, and it became alive. Okay, and it came to life. And from Adam, Allah created Hawa, his wife, from his rib. And then from them came all of mankind, only from them. So there's nothing called it came from monkeys and came from apes and evolved from all of these things. No, it's not possible. And in the verse of the Quran, Allah says about Isa and Adam, how Adam had no father. Okay, the way Isa has no father. So how can you then turn around and start to make up your own story about where human beings came from? So that is shirk in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He wants to take the action, the function of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exclusively, and He wants to give it to somebody else. Okay, He wants to give it to evolution or nature or something, or anything like this. Okay, so that is rejected. On this side, we said ilahiyyah is all of our actions. Anything that we do in our actions, we need to make sure that they are exclusive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Okay. So, if I want to test you guys a little bit on this, inshallah. If I talk about now, for example, I slaughter a chicken in the name of Allah. Okay? I mean, the actual chicken. I'm not talking about the, some peshmerga or something. I'm talking about the murga, no? The chicken. No? Somebody slaughters in the name of Allah. Is that Tawheed rububiyyah or ilahiyyah? Ilahiyyah. Yes, because my action. If we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created the heavens and the earth. Is that Tawheed rububiyyah or ilahiyyah? Rububiyyah. Okay. And if I said that David Cameron is the legislator, he can make our laws for us, is that shirk in rububiyyah or shirk in uluhiyyah or ilahiyyah? Both. Yeah, you can say it's both. One, because he's claiming to be the Lord. He's claiming he's the one who legislates. Al-Hakam al-Adl al-Musharri'. He's taking the attribute of Allah for himself. The other hand as well, he's a human being. What the hell is he doing? Legislating laws, directing the worship and the obedience and the seeking judgments to other than Allah, to himself. Who does he think he is? So that's why we can't separate these two as well, because people they got the mentality when they talk about categorizing the Tawheed, they have divisions of Tawheed. Okay, or when people start to say, oh, akhi, you can't call for rububiyyah before uluhiyyah before rububiyyah. This doesn't make sense. The two, they're together. You can't separate them. Okay, you cannot believe in Tawheed rububiyyah unless you believe in uluhiyyah. Okay. The words I'm using here, by the way, you can use any one of them. Tawheed ilahiyyah or uluhiyyah, they're both correct. Okay, it's just different terms. But ilahiyyah is the best one, inshallah. Okay. Also, Tawheed al-Ibad is another name for this one as well. People use. All of them are valid, inshallah. But the linguistically is the best one for us to use. Is Ilahiyya. Okay. So you can't separate any of these issues. You can't separate them. Just as when we had the fire triangle before of the Iman, we said the heart, the sayings, and the actions, you cannot separate them at all. And the only ones who separate them are the Murji'ah. When they start to say, for example, the Aqeedah in our heart, what we believe in our heart, and the Sharia in our limbs, that they are separate. The two are separate. You cannot separate the two. Okay? Just as you cannot say, when people say Tawheed Rububiyyah, Tawheed Uluhiyyah, or they say call for Tawheed before Sharia or Sharia before Tawheed. There's no such thing as Tawheed before Sharia, Sharia before Tawheed. There's only Tawheed. You call for Tawheed first and last. Nothing in between, nothing before or after. Any da'wah which is not to Tawheed is not da'wah. Okay, this is the first thing to understand. What they're basically saying is, you need to call them to believe Allah is one, Allah is the creator, but don't call them to worship Him, or to obey Him, to seek judgment in His laws, in His Sharia. You can't separate the two. You can't say that, I will tell Mr. Kafir to believe Allah created us, but I will leave him to worship the MPs and democracy in his shirk, instead of living by and ruling by the Sharia. You can't do that. To become muwahhid, you need to accept both rububiyyah and ilahiyya. In fact, the majority of the mushrikeen did not become mushrik by rububiyyah. They became mushrik in ilahiyya. That's why all of the messengers, what did they come to tell the people, to remind the people? Was it to tell the people, La Rabba illallah, that there's no Lord except for Allah? They don't need to tell them that. Everybody knew that. Atheism is a very new phenomenon, not new necessarily, but it's something which is, minority. The minority of the people are atheists, always, even now, really. They may like be a little bit outspoken and feel a bit proud with all their secularism and all that, but in reality, they're minority. The people who believe in Allah, believe in Creator and God, they're more than the atheists usually. Okay, the Anbiya, they did not come to remind the people, oh look, your Lord is Allah. They knew that their Lord is Allah. Okay, Allah says, ask the mushrikeen, ask the Quraysh, قُلْ مَنْ رَبُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, who is the Lord of the heavens and earth? Okay, مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, who created the heavens and earth? They will say, لَيَقُولُنَّ Allah, they will say Allah. Okay, the question is, why don't they worship Allah exclusively? Why are they offering their worship and their supplication and their devotion to idols instead of Allah? And they will say that we will only do it to become closer to Allah. They think that they can worship Allah by going to those idols or those graves and so on. And even now until today, there are some so-called Muslims, they start to fall into the same trap. Exactly how the first shirk occurred. How did the first shirk occur? The people started to say about some of the sons of Adam, some of the children of Adam. Okay, they were very pious. Okay, people like Wad and Suwa and Yaghuth and Ya'uq and Nasr, they were pious Muslims from the early human beings, from the children of Adam alayhi salam. Okay, so pious they used to remind everybody of the good deeds, and whenever there were, some people like this, whenever they're about, everybody feels that they want to do good deeds. They want to practice because it's a good company. If the company you keep, when the time of Salah enters, they stop what they're doing and they pray. You will stop what you're doing and you'll pray. If the company you keep, they delay the Salah until it's late, they say, don't worry, but we'll pray later, until Dhuhr is finished and Asr time now. If that's what you're hanging around them all the time, you'll be the same. So people used to really like those good pious people, and they all used to remind them to do good deeds. So when they died, some people, they started to say, why don't we, make a statue of those good people, so that when we see them, it will be like they were here, reminding us to do good deeds. We will see the statues and we'll be reminded to do good deeds. So they made statues for them, and whenever they see them, they say, like, oh, I should do a good deed. It's good, good that I saw him. And so they would benefit from this in this way. And then after a while, they had children, and their children, found these statues about, and said, and you see that their parents used to come and they used to offer some worship and good deeds after seeing the idols. So what they're doing, they didn't know the whole history and the story behind, or they forgot. After a while they had children, after generation, new children came about, And all they saw is, I don't know who these, the statues are. All I know is that my parents used to come and worship them. They used to come in there and they worshipped them. After a while, they made a shrine around the statues. After a while, it became a masjid around the statue. And it used to be people go there to worship. Until they started to worship the idols themselves. Okay? That was the trick of the shaitan, how they convinced them all. With good intention initially, they made a statue out of good reason, out of good intention. Then they started to worship the idols. Until today, we have the same problem. Now they look to pious, great scholars of the past. Whether Imam al-Uza'i, or Imam Ahmad, or Imam Shafi'i, or Ali ibn Abi Talib anhu, or Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, all these people, or even some other people who are not even pious, but people saw them as pious. They would make for them, graves, and instead to make the grave like the sunnah, level, okay, with just a little bit of raised ground so people know there's a grave there. No, they started to build a big tomb over them. And the tomb became a shrine, and the shrine became a masjid, and the people started to come to the graves and say, "Oh Abdul Qadir Jilani, save me from the hellfire. Oh Abdul Qadir Jilani, forgive my sins." They start to go to them and worship and supplicate to them instead of Allah. The same as people before. So most of the people, they fell into shirk in uluhiyyah. That's why the messengers came with what message? To say, La ilaha illallah. To tell the people, this is your problem. Okay? Allah is the Lord, we all know it. Stop worshipping other than Allah. Your actions should be only for Allah. That's what you need. You need your actions to be only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so I'm going to give you now, inshallah, some subcategories of these types of, or categories of Tawheed. Okay? So this is why I will say, let's say there are 8 categories of Tawheed. Why not? It's permissible to classify. We can do it as we like. Just to show you how it really doesn't make a difference how much. So under these, I'm going to put 4 each. Okay? So under Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, there is number 1. Okay? We will say Tawheed al-Asma' wa Sifat. Can you see the green on the camera? Is it visible on the Ustream as well? Can they all see it? Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so Tawheed Asma' wa Sifat. Okay, exclusivity in, I'm just going to put the dot, yeah? Exclusivity.